3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is November 2nd, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Good morning, Carl. Welcome to another episode of the show.
Thank you. We've got more off-season hockey for you today, Nick, with very little actual news this week. So we've got our top 10 list coming, which here's an interesting thing. So our top 10 list, let's give a little teaser for folks. What is our top 10 list this week?
Our top 10 list this week, since we're now into November, has to do with mustaches in celebration of Movember.
So we'll be celebrating a little Movember here, talking about the best players with mustaches in the NHL. But first, I decided, you know what, let's do a little show prep, which always is a thing that's an interesting choice. So you've got, Google, right? You've heard of it?
I have heard of it, yeah.
Okay. So I was typing into the Google looking for NHL mustaches. And so I started typing in NHL and then MUSTA. What do you think it auto-completed that to?
NHL Mustangs. NHL Mustard.
NHL Mustard Packet. Which reminded me, do you know why this is there?
No.
It's because of that time Mark Letestu was eating mustard on the bench during a game. Like, we've got smelling salts, but he's just getting his calories and his little energy boost from mustard, Nick.
That is super weird. Like, how could you like mustard that much? Mustard's fine, but would you eat it just by itself?
I have never just had a spoonful of mustard.
That sounds awful.
The next, I mean, in like 2023, when the Red Wings and Avalanche play again, loser has to eat a spoonful of mustard.
Done. On air.
Oh, yes.
Obviously.
And we'll release the video.
Of course.
Yeah.
But you Googling that brings up an interesting point, because I thought of something similar when I was Googling mustaches, and you spell it the way I initially went to spell it. But every time I go to spell the word mustache, I'm like, is it M-U-S or M-O-U-S?
So I have had a mustache full time for 5-6 years now. It's at the point that I don't even know. People are like, how long you had that? I don't know. So I don't even know the full proper way to spell a moustache. Is it M-O-U? And I've looked it up, and like
both come up. Both
seem entirely acceptable. I think one, it's like there's the British and the American way of spelling things. So
you're right. Mustache and moustache are both correct spellings of the same word. Mustache with a U is the most common spelling in the United States.
And then apparently the rest of the world is supposed to spell it with an O.
Correct.
So are you an O guy or a U guy?
I always thought I was an O, but when I instinctively went to type into Google today, it didn't have an O in it. So I guess I'm a U guy.
That's how you learn, right? Under pressure.
I guess so. I learned something about myself.
Well, let's get to, there are, full disclosure, for this week's show, we have 4 topics we're going to be talking about. 3 of them are hockey. 1 of them is our magical top 10. We've teased out the topic for the top 10. That is not the only surprise we have coming for you. There is more.
There is?
Yeah, there's more.
More surprises?
More surprises, Nick.
Okay, let's do it.
We're not done here. Are we starting with the top 10? Is that how excited you are?
I just thought we were going to get that done and move on.
Do you want to?
No, we have to save that.
Let's save it to the end, because who knows how long we'll talk about players with mustaches for. So
true.
Let's start with news out of Ontario, Nick, your homeland, talking about some regulations that are going to be in place for the OHL. So they've been trying to figure out a way that they can have games this year in the Ontario Hockey League. Not certain yet how that'll flush out, but what they are looking at is the potential of a season without hitting. That's coming from some government regulations say, hey, if you want to play, no hitting. So what else going on there?
So that came down from the Ontario Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries.
Which seems like the best combination of things to create. Look, I don't want to combine sports and politics, but it seemed like a better way to name that.
To me, it just sounds like when they were coming up for like departments, they're like, okay, there's a finance department. Yeah, there's the law department. And then they did all 20 departments. They're like, okay, what's left? Well, we got heritage, sports, tourism, culture. Okay, throw them all together. Lisa, you're in charge. Go.
So what did Lisa have to tell us?
So Lisa had to tell us that if and when the OHL is to return to play, there will be no body contact in their games. No hitting, no contact on the ice of any sort, I guess. Or I guess they specified body checking.
So you can still slash somebody.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the stick is 2 meters long.
But they don't say that you have to keep your distance. I mean, because there's no chance that you can play hockey while being 6 feet away from somebody. That would be the worst game of hockey ever.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And even some OHL coaches and managers have come out and they're like, look, we'll follow all the regulations they put forth. You know, they're the experts on this stuff. We'll follow whatever they say. I think the OHL is supposed to come back February 4th. And look, the other part of it, a lot can change between now and February 4th.
A ton can change. That's what, 4 months away?
It's 4 months away.
If we can have things settle down, we can have chaos.
Yeah. And if we're continuing on the same trajectory right now, then I expect max chaos because that's what we're experiencing in Ontario right now.
Everything everywhere feels fine, Nick. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everything's okay. So she came out and said this, and she was asked to clarify, as in, surely that can't be right. This is impossible in hockey. Like, and if you think about it, really, how are you going to play a game of professional hockey with no body checking? There's just so many more things that happen in a hockey game or at the hockey arena that are more high risk than body checking. So she was asked to clarify that, and she reaffirmed her position that no, I meant what I said, no body checking if the OHL is going to start back up.
Which seems like, I'm with you on that, right? Like there seems, again, they're the experts. Now, I'm sure that the Minister of Random Collection of Things might have talked to some health officials about this. One can only hope. But there does seem to be more things that are dangerous than checking, right? Like sitting next to guys on the bench. Like your change rooms. Face-offs.
Yep.
Like you're literally face to face with a guy inches away. At times, touching faces. Like just right in there, getting that puck. Are we going to just drop the puck? We're playing, roll the clock, no stoppages. We got to get out of there before the next team gets the ice.
Yeah. So I personally, I don't get it. I also don't see how these professional athletes can, or I guess they're not professional, amateur professional athletes.
Yeah.
On their way to being professional, like 10% of them. I don't know. I don't know. I can't see how they would play the game that way. It would completely change how they play the game, how they've been taught to play the game.
It would change so much. I mean, it would be a faster game, right?
Yeah.
It would, and I'm not saying that like you can't have good games without it, right? Like we see, I mean, the women's game doesn't have hitting in it the way that men's hockey does. and they can still make a quality product. But for these players who've been playing like this, right? Like hitting gets introduced 8, 9, 10 years ago for some of these guys. And this is how you've been playing the game for that long. It's borderline instinctual, right? Like you're going for the puck and the guy's there and you're going to lay a hit on them. To now be thinking about it, I can only imagine, one, the increase in penalties that'll happen when this rule goes into place. But two, just in general, how difficult and stylistically and strategically it will be. It'll be an entirely different game with a whole other set of players who are now the best at it.
Completely. And I think a lot's going to come down to coaching if they have to start the season this way too. How are coaches going to come up with new strategies and methods of coaching players to not body check? So I don't know, but that isn't the end of the story, because the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, came out Saturday night with the following tweet, which I have on my screen, so I might as well just read it. We are engaging with the OHL Hockey to create a safe return to play plan, which will need to be approved by health experts. To date, no decisions have been made. I would like to see the OHL return as normal as possible with body checking.
So Lisa's boss is changing her mind for her, is what's happening.
So here's the timeline of events. Lisa McLeod made the statement, no body checking. Everybody lost their mind. So she said, no, I meant what I said, no body checking. Everybody lost their mind again. And then her boss, the Premier, came out and said, no. We're still talking things through. Health experts are involved, but we want the league to come back with body checking.
Interesting. So what we know now is that we know nothing.
Pretty much all this stuff happened and then got erased.
Cool. All right. So in 4 months, there may or may not be hitting. How much of a lead up do you think these leagues would know? I mean, they're going to have training camp. They're going to have some sort of things opening up in like probably late January. How much of a lead up do you think these teams would know to like realistically be able to implement a no checking strategy in season?
I would think that they've already started planning for it, or they will start planning for it as soon as they get together and do their planning sessions. If it's on the table as it appears to be right now, I think you kind of want to make plans for it.
I mean, from
just
a
in
league
case,
perspective, right? From a league perspective, like, are you now just going to add a penalty, like 2 minutes for checking, just in general?
That's what I assume would happen. But man, those penalty boxes are going to be full, which would be an even bigger danger.
Right? Yeah. I got COVID in the penalty box for checking a guy. It's super, who knew? Yeah. It seems weird. It'll, like you said, those coaches, some of the, the coaches who look at, are more open to new ideas, I think would excel at this. Some of those old school coaches, which the OHL is pretty, and junior hockey in Canada is pretty advanced in some ways, but they also had Patrick Waugh behind the bench, so it takes all.
That was fun.
So we'll see what happens with that. We'll certainly, I mean, as this all happened over the course of a weekend, so it can go from checking to no checking, back to checking dozens of times before we actually get this happening. So
yeah, I mean, I think the prominent answer between now and February 4th is we'll see. Yeah. I think that's what we're going to keep getting is we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And we're talking. So, NHL also came out today talking about the upcoming schedule mostly because they want us to remember that they exist at this point in time. I think they're like, look, nothing else is happening. Let's just release a press release about something. So they, talking to Greg Wyshynski, they said that, I think there's some flexibility if we were to choose that route being starting on January 1st, but being done before the Olympics on July 23rd. So that gives you like 6.5 months to get a season in. So they say there's a lot left to be played out on the Olympics front too. We have models that extend past the Olympic time period. Those are alternatives that are on the table. I can't tell you they're the only ones. They're also said that the shortest season they would look at is 48 games. And so looking at that, 48 games, the shortest, they'd still like to have that. They also don't know entirely fans, right? Again, things can change between now and when you start things up if it is on January 1st. And that really comes down to local restrictions. So 48 games is the shortest, Nick. What most intrigues me about that is their idea of extending past the Olympics.
Why are they using the Olympics as a line here?
Because NBC has broadcasting rights for
TV, of course.
The Olympics. Yeah.
Of course.
So
interesting.
And in a world without fans, TV is your only revenue source, and their revenue source is busy with the Olympics for those 3 weeks. I think the Olympics are now. So,
wow. So they want to be done before that happens. But
ideally, but apparently there's a scenario where now they're firing back up after the Olympics.
They'd have to take a pause, right? They can't continue while the Olympics are on.
No. Because then you're losing out on all that revenue from.
Yeah, so they would have to take a pause. Maybe it's a kind of situation like you finish your regular season, you take a 2-week break, and you start up your playoffs or something like that.
Which, playoffs starting in August. When did playoffs start this year? June?
Was July. It that?
It was July, was it not?
I think it was July.
So we would be ending our season even later. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have that preseason preamble thing that they had this year. So, but we'd still be a few weeks later even than we were this year. So if their hope is to get back onto a normal schedule in the next season, that's not happening with having things happening, starting a playoff in August. So
it can't.
I'm thinking, I can imagine it where you just finish rounds before that and maybe the final is after, or conference finals and finals are after. So you do some of your playoffs and then finish it after the fact.
And at the end of this coming season, there's an expansion draft, right?
Yep.
And then Seattle's first full season.
Correct.
So if anything, they're probably hoping that at that point they can have a full 82 game season. What's the significance to 48 games? Why will they not do less than that? It's just not worth it.
I think so. I think that was what they also said, for lockouts and stuff. If we can't do 48 games, we won't even bother.
It kind of makes sense if you think about it. It's just not that long of a season to determine anything, really.
We saw what would be, because baseball just played a 60 game schedule,
which is half of what they do, right? No, less than that.
It's 37% of what they normally do. 37% of an NHL season is 30 games.
That's a short season.
So you're playing, baseball was 2 months, right? They played July and August.
The Buffalo Sabres would make the playoffs in a 30 game season.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
That's not enough time for them to collapse.
The amount of randomness. Baseball, we saw an amount of randomness with it, but when you're playing only 30 games to determine who's making the playoffs, then we're going to have expanded playoffs. And so we're letting 22 teams into the playoffs for some reason. And we've got 30. It's going to be weird. No matter what it is, next season is going to be weird.
Yeah, I really think the best case scenario for them is 48 games, get the playoffs done before the Olympics, be done with it, try and get everything back on a semi-normal schedule in terms of the draft and free agency. Well, I guess no, because that all happens in June, July.
Yeah,
so it'd be a month later.
So even that'll be a little delayed, right? It'd be a month later than normal.
How are they going to do the expansion draft if there's no awards?
Over Zoom, Nick.
But then nobody will watch the awards again. Literally the only reason I tuned into the awards that year.
It's true. For the draft picks in between the awards.
Yeah. I was so bitter. I was like, darn you.
Making me... But in hindsight, they really should have created 2 events out of it, because then some people would have watched, not us, some people would have watched them twice.
Yeah, that's true.
And now we just wait and find out. So more things to wait and find out on, Nick. We will see after that. So here's the last piece of news we have this week, is one that is an interesting note, and one that I really wish we didn't have to talk about. It is the incident and issue of Mitchell Miller, the Arizona Coyotes draft pick this year, who got in some trouble. Years ago, he got in trouble for bullying, aggressively bullying, to the point that he was charged for it.
Yeah, criminally bullying.
Criminally charged for this. Was selected by the Arizona Coyotes. And the parts of, nonetheless, he's bullying someone to the point of being criminally charged and being found guilty of it. What makes it worse is the person that he was, and the name is slipping my mind of the person that he was bullying at the time, but that's really isn't an issue. We don't need to bring that part up. What is an issue is just this person who was being bullied was had some issues, right? He had autism, and so not only was bullying someone with autism, and number of the things that he did in his bullying were also racially noted. He was a black kid in his school, in his community, and yet Arizona thought, this is someone we want for our organization.
And they knew all of this. They knew all of this happened, and they still picked him with their first pick in the draft. Because don't forget, they had to surrender their first, second, and third round picks. So their first pick in this draft was in the 4th round, and they knew what this guy had done, and they picked him.
So
it's bad.
It's terrible, right? And last week we didn't touch on it simply because it wasn't fully fleshed out. We knew that he'd done these terrible things. We knew, but we didn't know the end of it. And we kind of thought, let's wait until we know kind of where this ends up. This week, Arizona renounced the rights to that pick only after saying that their plan was to make him the center of an anti-bullying campaign. The NHL and some of their teams are so backwards and so stupid when it comes to these things. I cannot believe it.
This is such a bad look for the Coyotes. It's so bad because the first thing they did when all of this came out was they defended him. And it took them, a week, 2 weeks of even more scrutiny for them to turn around and say, okay, we're done. It feels so much more like a PR move on their part than an authentic positive action.
Because it wasn't that was not an authentic positive action. They got convinced that okay, fine, maybe we should do this. And my only hope is that they've now learned, that was stupid of us. Don't draft racists to our hockey team. Don't draft bullies to our hockey team. That's not going to make us a better organization in any way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think at the end of the day, I think they did the right thing. Did they do it for the right reasons? I don't know. I think that might be up to debate. Certainly on the surface, it feels a little public relations-y, but I think we got to the right outcome here. I think, things like this, when they come to light, it says a lot about this underlying hockey culture that people make mention of all the time, that, we from our couches watching it on TV don't really get a ton of insight into, but that exists. And, I think it's important for us to know these things and see these things. And I think it's important for professional sports teams to take an active role in addressing them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the underlying hockey culture. Arizona Coyotes picked him, but there were other teams who had him on their draft board as well. So this is not just an Arizona Coyotes problem. Other teams were very willing to draft him. Arizona just so happened to like him the most out of them. So I think these teams, the league, the people involved all need to, right? Ourselves. This goes all the way back in the summer. We're like, we're going to think about things and we're going to think about how we can be better. Well, we saw what that thinking led to, and it was this. So maybe think a little bit harder and a little bit better next time.
Well said, Carl.
Well, Nick, let's take that as our chance to take a break. We're going to be back. We're going to be talking about a happier note. Best players with mustaches.
Mustaches and moustaches.
All right. Welcome back. I'm excited, Nick. We've got our second ever top 10 list. We're talking about mustaches.
Actually, though, can we make it our third ever top 10 list? Because I think we should do a quick one right before we start. Top 10 hockey players eating mustard videos. Number 1, Mark Letestu. Okay, let's do mustaches.
I mean, technically, if we're going off of lists, you had several on our 300th episode. So
that is true.
That's the thing. So, but here's a surprise, Nick. We have, thanks to, our man Scotty Hicks is at it again, Nick. We mentioned last week, like, it'd be great if we had a jingle. When was it? This episode released on Tuesday last week?
Yeah.
Wednesday, I messaged you. Here it is. So thanks to Scotty. He is in the band Hunker Down. If you're looking to support him and some of his things, check them out. And you can find him on Twitter at Rapidonian.
Well, you said it 3 times, so
one of those had to be right.
That's
so
pretty
you can find
good.
them on there, and tune in and check those out. Thank you very much to Scotty. Without further ado,
thank you, Scotty. It made me smile a lot.
10.
Here we go.
I am so thankful that Scotty put that together. You know why I'm thankful? Because while you all were listening to that, Nick and I had a very quick chat, and we got some very important things ironed out for this top 10 list.
Okay, it's all figured out now.
All right, now that we've ironed those things out, here we go. So first, we have to pick 10 players to put on our list who have mustaches. Then we're going to rank them from 10th best player with a mustache to the best player with a mustache.
Can I just say the best part of it while we were off there is that I thought I was talking as if we were on the air and you were talking as if we weren't. Okay. So I'll start. The first 3 names that popped into my head when you said mustache, these are the 3 most obvious ones to me, okay? Lanny McDonald, Wendel Clark, and George Peros.
Obviously, right? Those are the three most prominent. Lanny is like the defining mustache of mustaches.
Yeah, absolutely. The next 2 that popped on into my head are current players. One is just a kid, 18-year-old Sam Bennett.
He's not 18. I mean, he's not.
No, he's not 18. But in his first season, all the commentating, anytime they referenced Sam Bennett, they mentioned his age.
Oh, I like that. All right. Yeah, I mean, he's channeling the Lanny McDonald in his mustache.
Like big time.
Yeah. I'm all for putting that on the list.
So he's on there. And the next one is a local one.
Okay.
Auston Matthews.
No.
I mean, he's had a mustache all year.
And it's still not any longer than it was before. Like, he still can't grow. It's like putting Sidney Crosby's playoff beard on the list of best playoff beards. It doesn't, like, that's not even a full beard. It can't be on the list.
Now that you mentioned Sidney Crosby, though, remember when he had a mustache?
Again, it doesn't. Is that who you're putting on next? Now we've got Crosby and Auston Matthews.
Look, personally, I hate Auston Matthews' mustache. I think it's awful, and I think it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you walk out on the streets and you say, name me a player with a mustache, people are probably going to say Auston Matthews within the first 3 or 4 names.
When did he first grow that mustache?
It's just this past season, I think.
Has he had it the entire season?
Yes. He showed up to training camp with it, I believe. And he had it through the playoffs. Oh no, sorry, they didn't make it to the playoffs. He had it through the play-in round as well.
That was a good slip there, Nick. I like that.
I mean, we can put him on the maybe list. I'm curious to hear some of the names on your list.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, especially living in Calgary, Lanny is up there, right, as the best mustache. Okay. I know that playing career wise, it wasn't as great. He's not as well known for his playing career. Paul MacLean, the Walrus, Nick.
Yep. He was one that I had saw as well in my research. You know what's amazing to me about about this guy? He is so committed to the mustache. Like, if you look, I found one picture of him from his hockey card from when he was a player. And now it's the same mustache.
Yeah.
He's just never changed his look.
No. Why would you? It's great. Similarly, sticking behind the bench, Joel Quenneville, the Stash, as he's known.
That's true. Did he have an extensive playing career?
Not extensive, but again, he's known as the Stash. And
if you had to guess, what team was he known for playing for?
What team did Joel Quenneville play for? I would go with St. Louis Blues.
That would be my guess as well. Oh, he played for a lot of teams.
Never St. Louis, though.
None of which was St. Louis.
Well, you know what, though? He retired when I was far too young to know. So
yeah.
That's on him. That's on him, not on me. But did he have, the one thing I'm trying to verify, he's known for his mustache now. Did he have a mustache during his playing career?
Oh, that's an interesting question. See, he strikes me as a Paul MacLean type in that, yes, he's just committed to this look forever.
That is correct. He looks almost identical to someone I know in real life, actually.
That's fantastic. Oh, wow. Look at him here with dark hair.
So here's another one. And this only comes to mind because I knew someone. Oh, geez. The more I pull this up, the worse this gets. So I knew someone who, is this who he thought it was? No, it's not. Another one that came to mind is Dave Babbage. He comes to mind as a good old mustache. And I'm trying to remember, there was someone else who, I'm going to pull it up here. While I do, you share some of yours that you got there.
Another recent one I've got, also really good hockey name, Cal Clutterbuck.
Yes.
Had a good mustache.
Strong mustache game.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like the 70s were full of mustaches. Like when I think of that, the Flyers team in the 70s that was really good and the Islanders team, I just think of white dudes with mustaches. I couldn't name a single one, but that's just what I think of in my head.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they were.
Right?
So you're not far off. Yeah.
How many are we at now? Anyways, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So
okay, who you got?
I've now reminded myself of who it was. I spent an entire year trying to convince a person that I did not look like former Calgary Flame Jamie McCown. So if you're looking it up right now, you can go and check. You can tell me, Nick, do I look like former Flame, former Leaf, Jamie McCown?
He spells his name weird, doesn't he?
It's Jamie I-E and then Mac O-U-N.
That you look like him?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I look like Jamie McCown.
Yeah, I see it.
Really?
Yeah. I see it. Give this guy a pair of glasses.
All right, here we go. I'll take mine off for a second. How?
Oh, yeah.
Is that?
I see it.
Is that it?
I see it.
Well, anyways, he's on my list as well. Turns out he's now a realtor.
I was just looking at him beside the sold sign.
Good news. He can sell a house. If you're in the Calgary area and looking, call up Jamie McCown. Tell him a podcaster who looks like him sent you, and maybe you'll get 5% off. Who knows?
Careful what you promised her, Carl. 5% on the cost of a house is a lot of money.
No, on realtor fees. Realtor fees.
Oh, just on the fees. Okay.
Yeah, just on the fees. I mean, also, if you're buying a house, you don't pay realtor fees. So
it's true.
5% off of nothing. I'm not even lying. All right. So this is what I've got on my list. We're currently sitting at, I believe, 11. We've got Lanny, Wendel, Perro, Sam Bennett, Paul MacLean, Dave Babbage, Joel Quenneville, Jamie McCown, Cal Clutterbuck, and an honorable mention to Auston Matthews.
Okay. So I guess Matthews can sit just on the outside of this list looking in.
Actually, if that's only 10. Do you have a 11th that you wish to bump Auston Matthews off with?
Oh, he's included in our 10?
That is currently 10.
Oh, no. I didn't.
Okay, well, then I guess Auston Matthews is in. There we go. So that's our 10. Now we have the goal of ranking them. Now it makes it interesting because we have to compare short term, like they haven't finished their careers yet, to guys who have finished their careers and are well-known legendary players. So
the coaches.
And some are coaches. Are we counting their coaching career or just their playing career?
I feel like they're more well-known as coaches and we should count their coaching career.
Okay. Well, then now we have a conversation, because at first I was like, this could be tough. Now I'm not sure. So, all right. Who do you think is the worst on this list?
Playing wise?
Playing wise.
I'd probably throw Cal Clutterbuck at the bottom of this list. Number 10.
I can get behind that.
That is a bit of an easy one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, no matter how good his mustache is, Sam Bennett, probably not definitely not the most accomplished player among the most accomplished players on this list. He's probably towards the bottom, maybe in number 9.
I would definitely say those and George Peros. I would put George Peros in as like those are my bottom 3 on this.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if we're counting coaches after careers, George Peros, director of player safety, do we get to count his work in that department?
Well, we can only put him as low as 10, Carl.
Does that move him automatically down to number 10 as the director of player safety?
Maybe.
Well, there we go. Welcome to number 10, George Peros.
Yeah, enjoy it down there.
All right. So then, I mean, I think Sam Bennett is younger. He's got more time. Comparing him to Cal Clutterbuck, this is. I think I would rather, right now, who would you rather have on your team, Cal Clutterbuck or Sam Bennett?
Sam Bennett.
I think so too. And I don't think it's that close.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right. So we got Clutterbuck at 9, Bennett at 8.
Yep.
I practiced my counting skills this week, Nick.
Peros at 10.
Peros at 10. I haven't messed up my numbers yet.
No, that's okay. There's still time.
Thanks.
You're doing much better, though.
Okay, so then we've got, I would probably put in the next grouping, McCowan and Babbage.
Yeah, I was going to go McCowan next. Babbage is one I don't know much about. Who'd he play for in his playing career?
Canucks.
Oh, man, this guy has a great mustache.
I mean, he's on the list for a reason.
So, hold on. He plays for the Canucks? He played for the Canucks, which means he's never won a Stanley Cup before.
I mean, he played for a lot of teams.
I'm looking at them now, and none of them won the Stanley Cup. At least not while he was there.
I was going to say, he wasn't, because Flyers... He spent 6 games with the Flyers. Didn't win a cup that year. So
he started the next year with them too, but they didn't win a cup that year either.
No.
But Jamie McCowan did win a cup. You know who he won the cup with?
Oh, you. Who, Nick?
Jamie McCowan was part of the 1998 Stanley Cup winning Detroit Red Wings.
And how did his mustache not come to mind for you then?
Looking further back in his career, I think he definitely won the cup with the Flames too.
I was going to say, he won on a very strong mustached Calgary Flames team in 1989.
The reason he didn't jump to my mind is because when he played for the Red Wings, he didn't have a mustache. He had like a full beard.
Oh, so he shaved, he disrobed his beard.
At some point, he looks completely different. He has just the full beard all the way across.
Does he look better with the mustache or the beard?
He looks better with the beard. He looks a little less silly.
Wait, are you saying I look silly?
No, of course not. Let's move on to number 7, Carl. Number 7.
So I would say, are you saying because Jamie McCown, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, trumps Dave Babbage on this one?
Yes.
I get behind that. So we got Babbage at 7, McCowan at 6.
Yes.
All right, left on the list. So this is our top 5 in no particular order. It is Lanny McDonald, Wendel Clark, Paul MacLean, Joel Quenneville, and Auston Matthews. I'm not looking forward to where this conversation is leading us next.
It's certainly getting harder. Now, I think Paul MacLean should come in at number 5.
Tell me why.
He certainly had a successful coaching career.
Yes.
However, I don't think he's found the success that he hasn't found the success that Joel Quenneville has, obviously, as a fellow coach. And when you compare him to some of the on-ice successes that Lanny McDonald had, I can't put him above that. So it really comes down to Wendel Clark and Auston Matthews. And Wendel Clark was the face of a franchise for many years. So I'd put him above Paul MacLean as well. So, I mean, who else, who's ever framed a conversation about who's better, Paul MacLean or Auston Matthews?
Okay,
this is so ridiculous.
Paul MacLean, number 5.
Right?
I think it's an easy, your logic makes complete sense. All right. Wendel Clark is number 4.
Really? Over Matthews?
Yes.
Why?
So you described Wendel Clark was the face of a franchise for years.
Yes.
How many years would you describe Wendel Clark as the face of that franchise?
Oh, man. I'm going to way overguess this. I don't know, 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah. Wendel Clark was with the Toronto Maple Leafs from 1985 to 1994. So, works out to 8 seasons with the team.
Okay.
In total, though, he did play 13 years for Toronto. He kept leaving and re-returning to the team.
Okay. I was going to say, I remember him playing for them beyond 1994.
Yes. So he played for them, then he went to Quebec, then he went to the Islanders, then back to Toronto, played 2 more years with Toronto, went to Tampa, another mustache that ended up in Detroit, Chicago, and then back to Toronto to end his career.
Yeah.
However, he was rarely sure, he had some very good seasons, right? He capped at 46 goals, face of the franchise, but not a successful franchise. If you were to take Wendel Clark and put him on the Florida Panthers of this era, we could not care less about Wendel Clark.
Agreed.
He was just the best player on some terrible Leafs teams.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment of him.
So
I agree.
So for me, I mean, if you were to look at certainly longevity, you have some other players who would, fill in longer than Auston Matthews, but I would say Auston Matthews already has a better career than Wendel Clark. I would say Joel Quenneville's multiple Stanley Cups puts him ahead of Wendel Clark. And I would say Lanny McDonald's longevity, his Stanley Cup prowess, his quality during that longevity all put him ahead of Wendel Clark. Wendel Clark only played till 33.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I'm still kind of stuck on how much players used to move around back then.
Yeah. Every year, just 1-year deals.
So crazy. Now it's they have to play their whole career in one place.
Yeah.
Okay, so Clark at 4.
I'm putting Wendel Clark at 4.
Okay. Then it's Matthews at 3.
We've got our podium of Matthews, Lanny, and Quenneville.
Man, this is thinking about these guys on a podium for having a mustache. I'm sorry I introduced Auston Matthews to this conversation.
I'm glad that you've realized the error of your ways.
That's embarrassing. I feel like Matthews wouldn't even get up on that podium. He'd be like, "Nah, I can't. I gotta wait 20 years."
I just opened his Hockey Reference page and he has a mustache in the picture on Hockey Reference. And the fact that I have him and Joel Quenneville and Lanny McDonald pulled up, I've got these majestic mustaches looking at me and this Rocky and Bullwinkle thief Auston Matthews mustache staring me.
That is a fantastic reference. It's really bad.
It is a mustache. But if you were to start, it's November 2nd, so you're even a day late. If you were to shave today and start your Movember, your mustache would look better than that.
Yes.
And he had an entire season.
Yes. I mean, I feel like he does maintenance to it, which is even more baffling because he chooses to keep it that way.
That's what he wants. Yeah.
By the way, I do grow a pretty good mustache. I'm just not allowed to keep it.
That's fair. All right. Auston Matthews has 158 goals in only 4 seasons in the league. Lanny McDonald is in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and Joel Quenneville pulled up his player page. He did not do anything of note as a player, of great note. But what he did do was win multiple Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks as their coach.
Yeah, I don't think it's a debate. I think Matthews is at 3.
There's no shame in the bronze medal. All right, here we go now. Joel Quenneville versus Lanny McDonald.
See, this is a tough conversation. Quenneville, 3 Stanley Cups. McDonald, 2 Stanley Cups, I believe.
I think only 1.
Is it just 1?
Because Calgary's only ever won 1. He for sure didn't win one in Colorado. And he didn't win one in Toronto. He won the Stanley Cup and then retired as a Calgary Flame.
Man, and he chased that cup too, didn't he? It was like towards the end of his career that he won it, isn't it?
I mean, he didn't chase it. He played in Calgary for 7 seasons at the end.
And he won in 89.
Yeah.
His last season.
Yeah.
It's a good story. It's a great mustache. He's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I believe he's like the head of the Hockey Hall of Fame's induction committee or something.
Correct. He is, yes.
He
is a gem. He is at like every Calgary Flames game. My wife's work has tickets like in the same section that he has tickets. And at every game, he is just taking pictures with kids. He is the nicest of guys to run into at a game.
He's still got that mustache going strong.
And he's still at what? How old is he now? The ripe old age of 67 years old. Lanny McDonald from Hanna, Alberta. Still going. Still doing it.
He's made 7 All-Star Game appearances. He's won the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy and the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. That is qualities of perseverance and sportsmanship.
Okay.
And the other one is humanitarian contribution.
Well, here's Joel Quenneville's awards.
Oh, boy.
He won nothing as a player. He has a 0-time All-Star. And then as a coach, he won the Jack Adams in 2000. Oddly enough, he won the Jack Adams while coaching the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
He did not win a Stanley Cup with.
In addition to his 3 Stanley Cups with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Correct.
I'm sure he's coached in All-Star games, and I say coach with big air quotation marks. Correct. In this context.
Yes. He pointed at players and said, go. Correct.
Probably went to the locker room between periods and said, let's have fun out there.
Cracked a cold one and walked back out.
Yeah, 100%.
3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, a Jack Adams. But
and surely Hockey Hall of Fame bound.
I was going to say, will end up in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but I do not think he did win more Stanley Cups, but I think Lanny McDonald is more deserving of this legacy of the top player with a mustache.
I'm kind of leaning that way too. It just feels right.
And part of it probably feels right because he is the definitive hockey mustache.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too.
Congratulations, Lanny McDonald. You are the winner of the best mustache in hockey. Should we listen to the jingle again?
Yes. Let's close it out with the jingle.
Thanks again to Scotty Hicks for hooking us up with that. It is quite the song. Thank you very much. Let's wrap up the show there, Nick. We'll be back next week with another top 10 list. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover on a top 10, send them in. Who knows what we'll get up to? We'll get there. Thanks for tuning in. You can find more about us at thefourthlinepodcast.com or at Fourth Line Podcast on Twitter, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can reach out to us on any of those platforms and say hello. Tell us your ideas. Any of those. Go on over there. We will be back next week with a new show. Thanks for tuning in. If you first time hearing us, subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review if you like the show. And if you don't tell anyone anything about us. Thank you very much for tuning in. And until next time,
it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go mustache or moustache. No, it doesn't really matter if it's mustache or moustache. We can all agree that Austin's is trash.